All right, welcome to this week's episode of Courageous Leaders Changing the World. Super excited for this week's guest, Ryan Tuckwood. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So for the people who don't know who you are and what do you do?
Still figuring that out in a way. Shortest form possible, I'm an engineer turned sales and communication coach based on the Gold Coast. Been here for the best part of 16 years. And every day I'm pretty fortunate. I get to work with business owners, entrepreneurs, sales professionals. And my job is to help them articulate their value in a more effective and efficient manner. That's the corporate version. The other version is I've got two kids that I can't communicate with. I'm divorced, so I'm not that great at doing my job, and I just enjoy life. I think I've got I've learned to be a glass half full kind of person, but my default is actually glass half empty, which a lot of people don't see or believe.
Yeah. What do you find is your journey with like going from glass half empty to glass half full then?
That it's a constant recalibration. Okay, it's something that doesn't come natural to me. I'm an engineer, as I said, by trade. So my desire for everything to be perfect in this world of coaching, mentoring, standing on stage in front of thousands, there's so many variables that I can't control. And that can challenge me a lot, where I go, well, hold on, there's too many things going wrong. Negative bias, as opposed to acknowledge when those thoughts start to come in and then intercept them, and I have to do that on the daily. So it's challenging. It's really challenging.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I recognized, I was doing this event one time, and basically I recognized that, my default is being critical, like all day, every day. I built my entire business based on being critical. It's like a lot of coaches come to me to be able to improve their business, and it's like I'm critical of this, and this. And it's been that double-edged sword of the thing that has, one, gotten me all of my success, but it's also like creating that level of sabotage for me to actually go to the next level. Because if I only build it based on being critical, then it works really well.
To a point.
Yeah,
see that.
Yeah. What's been your journey with some of the things that you've recognized that has gotten you all of the success that you've gotten so far, but it's also the thing that's kind of stopping you from moving to the next level?
You may have just touched on it. My instinct wanted to say process then. So as somebody that's lived in a very regimented world for a long time, there's no room for error. In engineering, everything is very methodical and process driven. I realized that sales is exactly the same. Sales and communication is the same, right? There's an order of which we can say or do things to another human being, which will directly impact the value they hear or see in those words. So if you do it all in the right order, you get a very predictable outcome. To then start to pass on responsibility and delegate that to other people, where I lose a little bit of control along the way, that stifled me a lot. And it was one of our investors, actually, some people might know this, but we were crazy and decided to take our business onto Shark Tank back in 2018. We got 3 investors come on board. And I remember Andrew saying to me once, you need to lower your expectations of human beings. Just in general, like nobody's going to work as hard as you. No one's going to have the attention to detail that you do, because it's not their business, firstly. And most people just don't live like that. They're not wired the same. So I had to shave 20% of my expectations off people. That doesn't mean I lowered my standards. So I still want to be the best of the best. I still want everything to be perfect, but I don't expect people to live at that level. So that was the hardest thing. And once I let that go, and also then found the right people that could at least be 80%, and to be fair, my team are probably 98%, then the business just went like that.
Yeah, I love that. What's been a time that you've had to, the name of the podcast is Courageous Leaders Changing the World. What's the time that you've had to summon more courage than any other time?
Personal or professional?
You can do one of each if you really want.
Pretty open on these things, so I'll continue that vein. I'd say personally was to walk away from my marriage in a way. Like 3 years ago with 2 young boys, one was 2 at the time, one was 4 at the time. So to walk away from something that was safe and easier to stay in, even though I knew it wasn't serving me anymore, I think that was, looking back in retrospect, was a very brave thing. And I thought long and hard about the right thing to do there and how I was going to model for my boys in the future, that if something isn't right, then you got to walk away from it. I think that was big. There would be another element, similar vein, with an ex-business partner, where we discussed going our separate ways. He exited Swish, and I exited the real estate company that we owned together as well. Little did I know, that was Jan 2020 when Jack and I went our separate ways. Little did I know, in March we were going to go into lockdown, so I was left with a business myself for the first time ever, which was a face-to-face training company, and the whole business just went, right, well, the business world said, well, we can't do face-to-face training anymore. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I remember, again, I had a conversation with Andrew Banks, and he said, you just got to be super, super vulnerable and honest with your team. And I said, well, if I do that, I'll tell them I've got no idea what I'm doing. And he's like, go and tell them that. And I remember going into the next morning huddle saying, guys, look, I got no idea whether we're going to survive this period of COVID. I've never run a business by myself before. But one thing I will tell you is that I'm going to give it everything that I've got to make sure that nobody loses their job and we survive this. And I really felt like the team rallied around that vulnerability. And whether that's courageous or not, I'm not entirely sure. But I've really lived that transparency with my team ever since. And I think it served me well.
Mm. How important do you think is that, that transparency and authenticity, especially in a sales process?
In a sales process, it's everything. Yeah, for sure. I mean, our whole business, if people know my backstory, I moved here in 2010. I fell into a call center, a boiler room environment, ultimately, where we had to make $300 a day. And we were taking $25,000 payments over a phone in 45 minutes from a cold call. And when I left 2 years later, that company got raided, and it turns out that they were fraudulent and they weren't doing right by their clients. And I'd seen that, which is why I walked away. And then our whole business was built on the foundation of selling with integrity and selling honestly, that you don't need to lie, bully, manipulate, fabricate the truth. Like, you just need to learn to tell your truth better. And everybody has a great truth. Most is probably a bit of a stretch, but a lot of companies, they're actually doing right by people, right? You don't really hear those stories, but even we joked a little bit about coaches before this started. There's so many dodgy coaches around. Gold Coast, where we're based here, how many Gold Coast sales coaches are there? How many sales coaches? Everyone's a bloody coach these days, but do you know what? Some of them are actually doing right by people, but they sound like they're not because they haven't learned to articulate their value just yet. And there's some really good businesses out there that have got a great product, great service, that actually want to do right by people, but their resistance to be seen as a salesperson actually stops them learning the skills. And there's an interesting paradox that the less trained you are, the more salesy you sound, because they will say things like, I'm just touching base, I'm just following up, I'm just circling back round. And they're nice people, and they're like, I don't want to learn how to sell because I'm not in sales. Yeah. But you sound more salesy than me because they didn't understand the words or the language that actually raises sales defenses. So transparency is everything, but you can be transparent and still sound like you're scamming somebody, even though you're actually not.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. We bought out a new house this year, and within maybe like 2 or 3 days, had someone like door knocking trying to sell us something, and I saw this stark comparison of like what was good sales and what was bad sales, and we had one that was selling solar power, and then one that was selling something else. And the one that was selling someone else was like ultra salesy, and the one that had that I could recognize had been properly trained was asking me questions that were like no-oriented questions. They're like, so, what did he say? He's like, can you see any harm in that? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, good.
Would you be against?
Would you be against? Yeah. And I noticed the difference of like my resistance over here of the yes person that's just like, you got to say yes to every single question they have, and you just start to get your defenses up, versus the experience of when someone is treating you more like a human, which is often what happens when people ask those no-oriented questions. Yeah. Are there any kind of huge mistakes that you see from people when they're looking at having that shift of how they're selling?
The biggest mistake I've seen globally, we're fortunate we've got clients in 32 countries, and doesn't matter what culture you're in, doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter your level of experience, the biggest mistake is that they have the wrong intent, always. And what I mean by that is they're knocking on your door, they're calling you up, they're going into a sale, trying to make a sale. And because of that mindset, that almost that foundational mindset of my job is to make a sale, my job is to close a deal, make a commission, everything else that follows is wrong. So their intro is wrong, their frame is wrong, their questions are not deep enough, the questions are not in the right order, they're assumptive closing instead of empowering closing, like you kind of just explained there with the no questions. So if we can shift that intent from my job is to make a sale to my job is to find out if a sale needs to be made, that changes everything else because it leads more to curiosity and to genuinely find out about the person in front of them. So one thing I always like to say to people is, if your job is to find out if a sale needs to be made, what are the 2 or 3 absolute non-negotiable bits of intelligence you need to gather for you to go, yes, this person categorically needs my solar panels or my insurance or whatever it is. I'll go, okay, so do your questions go deep enough to get that information to categorically know? Because at that stage, then you have a duty of care and a responsibility to get that into somebody's hands. So that's the biggest mistake I see, is that they have the wrong intent. And unfortunately, it's very rarely the salesperson's fault. It's the sales manager, the business owner, the shareholders, the investors. It's all that pressure comes all the way down, and by the time it gets to the prospect or the client, it just comes out as commission breath, and then we lose the sale.
Mm. Yeah, I love that commission breath. I haven't heard that before.
It's real, and it stinks.
What are some of the things that you recognize play out for people when they have that identity of like, I'm just not a salesperson?
Ooh, when they have the identity of not a salesperson.
You hear it all the time. It's just like, oh, I'm just not salesy, or I'm just not a salesperson.
I'm not cut out for it. Well, firstly, it gives me PTSD because I used to say that. I didn't really notice this recently, to be fair, is I had to take off the engineering hat. So even though I say that story then, that was actually limiting me big time, because I'm like, well, I'm an engineer by trade, and I wore that as a badge of honor because I'm an academic, I've got a qualification, and they were always important to me. And unconsciously, I guess what it was doing was playing down the salesperson part instead of going, well, hold on a second, I'm earning 100 times more than I was as an engineer being a salesperson. So I think the first thing is to acknowledge that being a salesperson is okay. It's actually a noble trait. So one of the first shifts we have to let people know is that we are all in sales in some capacity. Justin in here in the corner right now, he impacts my experience when I come in the room. Probably wouldn't position himself as a salesperson, but I also book podcasts and I need a room. We're going fully remote in February. He didn't know that, which means I don't have a studio anymore. So where am I going to do my podcast in the future? Probably somewhere that made me feel welcome, right? So a salesperson is anybody that ever interacts with another human being. And that can be accounts receivable, it could be customer service, it could be front of house, it doesn't matter. You impact my experience, which could impact whether I retain or whether I go elsewhere. So I think what it does is suppress potential. And if you just remove the word sales for a second and say that I'm in communications, that makes it a little bit more palatable for a lot of people. One thing that many people might not know about is that, let me get these right, 43% of our members now are not in sales. They're not in a transactional role. They're in HR, people and culture, they're management. And then 33% are actually females, which is unheard of for a non-female only sales training company as well.
Wow.
And I think that is because we really lead with that selling with integrity, selling honestly sort of mantra. Is that this is not about smashing people over the head and being Jordan Belfort. This is about having a conversation between two humans and seeing if you can actually help someone in the first place.
Yeah. How do you overcome that when people have had that experience of, the Jordan Belfort type of sales to, selling with integrity?
How do we overcome it as in like rehabilitate them in a way?
That's one way to put it.
Because that's what it is, isn't it? And there's also an interesting notion of we get sales managers or leaders or business owners come to us and go, hey, can you train our sales team? We'll go, well, I don't know. It depends whether how they're performing and what their problems are. And I'll say, who trained them? And they'll go, well, I did, but they're just not very good. I'm like, okay. So I'll train you and then I'll rehabilitate your team. Because if your team leave, then you're just going to keep retraining all the crap. So they never see themselves as the problem in the first place. So, and then there's the conversation of, do I want somebody that's come from a hard boiler room, Jordan Belfort-esque environment, or do I want someone that doesn't see themselves as a salesperson? I would much rather train the I don't see myself as a salesperson that's green, no experience whatsoever, than the person that's been brainwashed into thinking they need to alternate close, assumptive close, and really push products on people. So the rehabilitation starts with, I guess, really understanding them as a human. Like, why do they believe what they believe? There's a lot of mindset work that we do, which I know you do, probably the best that I've seen from a distance anyway, is to understand why they believe the things that they do believe. Even our day one of our boot camp is all about psychology of human behavior. Not to your depths, but there's psychology of human behavior and consumer behaviors, and why is there resistance between being seen as a salesperson? And once we uncover that, then we can start to instill a few basic principles of, hey, look, maybe if you didn't say the word, let me try and give a really obvious one, budget. Let's go budget. So we know, according to Gong.io, if you're familiar with Gong, they did a study on this. If you say the word budget during your discovery, you reduce your chances of making a sale by 32%. So maybe you don't say the word budget, right? That's not making you salesy. It just increases your chances of making a sale. Right? That's a real soft way for us to elegantly get a few principles in. And all of a sudden they start to see results. And then if you get a few small results, then you get buy-in for the rest of it. Just baby steps like anything else.
Yeah.
Rehab. You got to wean them off.
What happens when you recognize that someone doesn't want to let go of those things then?
I look at it like family members, right? So I'll be careful how I say this. As an engineer, that hat back on for a second, I'm a fixer, right? I want to fix people. And then I went into the coaching space and I'm like, I still want to fix people. And I have a desire for everybody to become, I don't believe in being the best. I believe in being a better version of whatever you are. I don't think we're ever finished. So okay, I look at somebody and I can see potential in somebody. It could be a family member. Maybe they've got some patterns that they keep repeating. At some stage, you just have to draw a line in the sand and go, do you know what? They have to play a part in their own rescue. And they just don't want it. And I've had it before where I could spend 3 weeks with somebody that's of a negative bias, and I could spend 6 months with somebody that's of a positive bias, and the negative one will win. So I need to decide whether I'm going to continue to spend my time with people that just don't want to be helped. So I always go, it's like a sales conversation. And I say this to my team. We have a 10-step process that we go through that we call the negotiation ladder. So it starts with prep, our intro, our framing, our discovery, blah, blah, blah. We go all the way through. If you can categorically say, hand on heart, that you got off or out of that interaction, whether it's over 20 minutes or 20 months, and you did everything in your power to give yourself the best chance of helping that person, then you wish them all the best and you let them go if they didn't go, and you sleep with your head held high. So I look at people that are resistant to change or they just won't go and go, did I do everything in my power? Did I give them all the tools that I know, when implemented, will change their life? Yes. Did they decide to use it? No, that's not on me anymore. Because I was wearing that for a long time. And you could have a room full of 300 people at an event and you focus on the 2 people that do nothing. I don't know if you probably experienced this. And it's infuriating.
Yeah.
But I don't live for them anymore, unfortunately. I've been doing this 11 years. I know what works. And I guess what it's done for us, Cody, is make sure that we choose the right people on the way in. We're probably better at vetting now, so that disproportionately our results are positive as opposed to 1 or 2 people that don't do anything.
Yeah, I definitely think that's initiation in business is recognizing when you have that recognition of that person isn't getting the results that you want, and you look back through the process and you're like, well, probably shouldn't have taken them on in the first place.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage to be able to recognize, number one, to be able to recognize that and actually, cut the cord and actually complete that and let them go. But also then to also change the processes to be able to go, okay, cool. Well, how do we get more people like this person over here instead of less person, less like these kind of people over here that, you know, they've worked with 12 different sales coaches and the sales coach is always the problem.
It's always the problem. I'll give you a quick example on that as well. So I am very fortunate, and I'll do a shameless name drop, that I did the Necker Island experience last year with Sir Richard Branson. And he did, every day there was like a panel thing, and sometimes he would speak. And one of the questions he asked us was, if you could flatline your business today and you could only choose a capped number of clients, whatever the number that is, somehow I went 10 in my head. He said, who would you choose to work with, right? And how would you deliver whatever you deliver? So what would your model of your business look like? And I came back from, that was April last year, and I came back and I walked in the boardroom, not the boardroom, walked in the main office with a big whiteboard, and I did two things. I changed the number from we were going to do a big national sales conference in October. It had 300. I crossed it out. I wrote 1,000. Before I even spoke to my team, I've been away for like 3 weeks. Like, what the fuck?
That's how my business works too. I come back from something and then
they hate me having holidays. It's like, oh God, thinking time. So I crossed that out, made it 1,000, and we did 1,100, by the way. And I also said, we do not do corporate training anymore. From that day, they were not allowed to sell a corporate client, which meant that I was going out delivering training to businesses every month or whatever, because it wasn't getting the greatest results long term, even though the clients loved it. I'm like, I'm not going to give you what you want anymore. I'm going to give you what you need. And then the other part to that whole trip was, on that island, there were 40 business owners. And I'm talking super successful business owners. Some of them had sold out for hundreds of millions US. One had sold his business for $1.1 billion. Very successful. And what I felt on that island was something I'd never felt before. It was quite cathartic in a way that everybody just connected, and I'm like, how have they done this? How do they? No one's asking me about revenue. No one's asking me like vanity metrics about the size of your team or how big your office was. It was like real deep conversations from the minute you arrived. There was an assumed level of success just by being there. I'm like, how do I recreate that? How do I just get people together that I want to work with, that I'd go for a beer with, that I'd jump in a pool fully clothed with, which we did a couple of weeks ago at an event. And that's how I started to vet our new programs. And we've got a 12-month program that we've just fulfilled now as a group for the first time ever. And we got 93% of them have retained. It's $44,000 a year. 93% of them have gone again now for next year. And I'm like, that's because last April, year before, I made the decision to choose our clients instead of letting clients choose us. And now I love what I do again. Because I don't know if you've had this, but you start a business, it gets hard, and you fall out of love with it a little bit. And I'm like, I didn't get into business to not want to wake up every day and enjoy this. So I'm back in love with it again.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to be able to either retire an offer or retire an entire revenue stream in business, because often, you know, sometimes it's been like the lifeblood of the business. I remember I had an offer that made us more money than any other offer ever, like by at least double. And I was just like, I'm just not enjoying this anymore. The people that are in it they're amazing. I love them. And it's not set up for them to actually succeed. It's set up for them to be busier. And it was me shutting down that offer that opened up all of this aliveness, all of these different things in business where I actually started to love what I was doing again. And most people don't recognize that when you become more successful, then this, you know, occurs more and more often. Every time that you're actually creating this massive shift in business, you're actually going through the retiring or the dying of something in your business so that you can actually get to that next level, rather than try and just get a little bit more or less of, like, you know, another corporate client or another thing there. It's that shift between that, you know, incremental growth and exponential growth. What's been some of the things that you've recognized in your journey that have been those inflection points for you to be able to go to an entirely new level?
You may have just kind of touched on it in there. And I was going to say in the middle of it, interestingly, as we transitioned there, we're at Swish 9.8. Like we're so far different from what we were bloody 2014. This point in particular, when we changed, we only lost one corporate client. So after all that turmoil, all these clients for years saying we wouldn't engage you unless you come out and deliver face-to-face training because we're so unique. Our sales process is so different. But all of our data after 10 years at the time suggested it wasn't. It didn't matter what industry you're in. The curriculum was 90% the same. I'm like, I'm teaching that at a boot camp. I can put you all in the same room. So we lost one corporate client. They just went, okay, well, if you don't do it anymore, well, all right, we'll do the virtual stuff then, and we'll send the team to the boot camp. And then our boot camp numbers went from like 20, 30, 50 people in a room to 300, which is what we always wanted. And now, so I went from delivering 120 something days a year to 30, and I get more time with my boys, blah, blah, blah. So that was a big lesson, because now I know that some of the concerns that I have about changing or shifting again, they're probably not going to be valid. And I've done that enough times now to go, right, I'm just going to draw a line in the sand and move forward. Another big inflection point was obviously Shark Tank. I never wanted to go on that. I don't know if you know the story about how that came about. So my old business partner, Jack, who's a lot more cavalier than me, shall we say. He's a genuine entrepreneur. I'm a fabricated entrepreneur. He approached me November 2017. I remember him coming into the office one morning, and he had a bit of a look on his face, which said, I've got a new idea, as he always did. And he said, how do you feel about going on Shark Tank? And I was like, that's a stupid idea. Like, why would, and by the way, up until late 2017, I'd never put myself on socials. All my social platforms were private. I didn't go on stage. I didn't do any of it. That wasn't my thing. That was his thing. I'm like, why the hell would we go on national TV as a sales training company and try to sell something? If we fail, we've just said that our whole business doesn't work. Like, this is crazy. And he goes, yeah, that's a shame, because we've already been accepted. So he just applied. We got on it. And then March 2018, we filmed it. And then the investment came through in September after 6 months of due diligence. So having them with us gave us credence in an industry that is tarnished. And all of a sudden we got Amex, Westpac, Mercedes, National Storage. Like, they started to fall into place. And you get a few of those big corporate badges. As much as they then trapped me for the next few years, which I didn't realize at the time, they gave us so much credibility globally. So that was a big point.
Yeah. How important would you say partnerships are then to be able to grow a business?
I was talking to somebody about this the other day, about going it alone. I just don't think you can do it alone in general. And a partnership can be a mentor, it can be a friend, it can I think it's really good to have somebody outside your circle that actually doesn't know your industry that well as well. I think sometimes there's a lot of product-specific training, but very little capability training, which is very, very different. There's people that have biases based on the advice that they give you. So, like, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, why would you give 30% of your business away to the sharks? I'm like, we didn't. We invested 30% of our business into 3 of the greatest minds Australia's ever produced that are worth billions of dollars. Those partnerships were a catalyst. We've got 18 coaches now. They all came because I've either been mentored by them, I've mentored them, and like that, it just exponentially grows your network. I think I can say it now because my business divorce transition is complete. I've got like 11 fringe businesses on the back of Swish that only came about because of partnerships. I don't own 100% of any of them, and I don't want to. I've just spent 11 years figuring out who is the expert in that and what would complement Swish, and now I'll launch those different businesses. So you can spread yourself further with somebody else delivering a great service if you build the relationship. But you've got to put yourself out there to give yourself a chance of doing that in the first place. And then do right by people. Like, I'm not building a relationship to start a business. I'm building a relationship because it's the right thing to do. And if something comes out of it further down the line, then that's a bonus.
Yeah. How important is it to have that mentality then, to go from, most people in sales are transactional to creating and embodying that level of relationship-focused business?
I think it's hard to teach because it's a long game. It's a really long game. I got I did an MC gig for Success Resources, SR,
Yeah.
and I was MC for Goggins with 4,000 people. And Craig, the GM of Success Resources, called me probably about 3 months before this happened. This was in November last year. And he goes, I've been watching you for 5 years since I did a podcast with Michael Lane, who was the Success Resources CEO back in the day. He's now Forbes Australia CEO. I flew down there as a thank you. I said, like, how can I thank you? Like, you didn't charge for this podcast. Can I deliver some training to your team? He's like, yeah, but you can't do it today. Go talk to Craig. He'll book a day. And he booked a day 2 weeks later. I flew back to the Gold Coast. I flew back down, did a whole day of training. From then, Craig was watching me. I had no idea. And then he calls me out of the blue. Years later, I'd maintained that relationship. I had no idea that I was going to get that sort of gig. And I don't think people are as prepared, and I got to be careful by brandishing everybody, to play that long game without no guaranteed payoff. And that's business. That's sales. Like the amount of coaches, they're a sales coach, then they're a mindset coach, and they're what was NFTs?
Yeah, cryptos,
like,
and then AI.
Get it? Like, I get try different things and see what you love, but there's something to be said for finding a lane, being in a lane, and just a matter of, he's been doing it for so long. There's a guy called Steve Roberts. I talk about him a lot, English guy. He came to our event a couple of years ago, and we had a small event in Surfers. He came up to me at the end. He goes, I'm going to buy your stuff. I was like, okay. Can I ask you why? He goes, I've been following you for 4 years. All right, you ain't fucking going anywhere, are you? And that was it. He goes, you must be doing something right. He had no other reason. As I say, you've just been doing the same thing for 4 years at that time. And I think people value that. I know what you stand for. I know who you are. I think people go and they keep reinventing themselves, which I'm not against that at all. But if you come back as an expert in something else, all of a sudden, then you're like, now buy this one. And they go, well, I thought you were an expert in that. It's really hard to build those trust credits en masse anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Pretty much every event that I run, I'm like, I'm going to still be here in 10 years, still running events. I'm still going to be here. Yeah. You want to go work with someone else and do that first? I'm still going to be here. I'll be waiting. Yeah. We're still going to be running events. We're still going to be doing it. We're in it for the long haul. We've already been doing it for decades. Like, if you want to go down that path, go down that path.
Yeah, and you see it. When you've been in the game long enough, you see the cycles. You would have read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, where we all have that entrepreneurial seizure where we go, I'm going to go out and start my own business. And then 18 months later, you're like, I'm HR, I'm sales, I'm admin, I've now got to learn how to use Zero. Like, I'll go and get a job again, right? It gets hard. And some of my team, not so much this team now because they're seasoned as well, but some of my previous team or even people around me would go, your old staff member's gone out and started their own sales company. They're doing the exact same thing as you. Or we get sales coaches come and do our training and then they go and rip it off. And I'm like, it's hard. Fair play to them. If they want to go out and they want to pull $1 million from the market, it's fine. Like, that's not really impacting me. I'll help them do it as long as they change the acronyms. Like, just change the PowerPoint, for crying out loud. And I think business is so hard. It really is hard. It doesn't need to be as hard as most people make it out to be, but I know how long it's taken me in this industry to really start to see that spike. So if somebody goes out and copies me, fair play to you. Like, it doesn't bother me. But I know that in 18 months' time, they're probably going to be out of it. So I'm not going to go down any legal route. I'm probably giving everyone permission to steal my stuff now. But I can't be asked to go down any legal route to sue you or take it off you, because I know that you're going to figure out how hard it is in 18 months and probably do something else anyway. And I just let it take its course.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And we talk about all the time in our work, there's the 18-month kind of gestation period for results, especially in things like partnerships.
Yeah.
The relationships or the marketing that you're doing today is not going to fully pay you until 18 months later.
Yeah.
This is the compounding effect, but most people are just too focused on, what are the results they get today, that they never actually get to that compounding effect because, so many people that you were just talking about, what happens? In 18 months, they're out of working on sales, right? So they haven't actually got to the compounding effect of actually doing their own thing and actually turning that into their own intellectual property and, changing the acronyms and doing all of those things. See it all the time. Even some of our clients, our higher level clients, because one of the core things we teach is how to build out, their acronyms or their visual models to be able to do that. And I see, their clients showing up with some of our stuff, which is like core IP. And I'm, on the one hand, I'm like, they're butchering it, and also
that's the worst bit.
They're butchering it, so I have to take a breath and then go. And they recognize that they're also building out my brand a little bit more because in them butchering it, it becomes very evident to be able to see who actually has mastery in that thing as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like that double-edged sword that I still have to take a breath sometimes when I see it. And I go,
It's hard because your instinct says, make sure you just cite me, right? If you're going to say, I learned this from someone, and then you hear them do it and you're like, don't mention me, right? You didn't learn that. Especially if they actually get it wrong, right? There's a difference between sharing a framework and saying this is what you should do, and sharing like nuances or principles or like the psychology behind it. And when they explain that wrong, I'm like, oh, that hurts. That's not it. And you almost want to just stand up and say something at that point. Also touching on that, like almost that instant gratification that people chase.
Yeah.
I've never been like that. I'm quite patient human anyway, I think. But I watch my boys now, 7 and 5, and obviously it's quite relevant. The social media ban has just come in, but I watch them watching YouTube shorts. Like I'm a single dad at times. I've got a new partner now, but I still live by myself. So sometimes I've got to put them in front of the TV while I make dinner. And then they get YouTube shorts on, and they're just like fast paced. It's like 10 seconds. And you can see like that. And I talk to them about them trying to get a quick hit of excitement. I don't say dopamine, but a quick hit of excitement. I'm like, boys, this doesn't serve you well long term. Imagine them in business in 10 years. If they're going to do that for the next 10 years, they're going to be chasing instant wins, not long-term partnerships. And I, as you said there, I don't think that's going to serve them.
Yeah, it's interesting. My son's like that as well. He's like 3, and he just wants to like grab my phone all the time, and he'll grab it. And we've worked out how to be able to do it more effectively. We've got like Reading Eggs is like an app that
Reading Eggs is great. Yeah.
Reading Eggs, but then also just even like taking notes. Yeah. Reading Eggs has been so good because it used to be we wouldn't give him like anything. He would look at doggo videos. We have a golden retriever, so he's looking at golden retrievers on Instagram. But now with all the AI, dog videos, it's like the speed at which it changes shots is like every half a second because it keeps the dopamine going and all of those things. So just slight shifts like that allow him to be able to like consume some things, but it's not the dopamine straight one after another.
Yeah.
And the greatest one at the moment is he likes watching Diggers on the thing. So he's like, can we watch Diggers? Because I know that it's just one straight shot.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay for him to watch one straight shot so long as it's not chopping from one shot to the other because that
That's
reinforces.
the thing. It's the chopping and changing.
Yeah. And when we're going through that, like for me, I see that as developing, integrity with the thing. And the same thing plays out in sales. How do we start to develop a deeper sense of an industry-wide level of integrity with sales then? How do we start to cultivate that?
So do you know what's interesting? Our mission, like headline mission, change the perception of sales globally. Right, that's the aim. We'll never do it. That's weird, isn't it? It's like we got. And I said to the team, I was like, we're not going to do it. I personally, and I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't believe that we're going to change every single human being's perception of sales around the globe. What we can do is change the perception of the people that we interact with. And I think it's like anything. It starts very, very small and it compounds. And it's on us as individuals to try and have as much reach as possible. Even my family will say, like, why are you still going as hard as you go? How many? When's enough? Like our events are, we're targeting 3,000 people for SwishCon next November the 12th and 13th. Just secured those dates this week. It's like, why? Why do that? That's a headache. It's stressful. Why do it? Because I know the more people I can reach, the more people might walk away going, do you know what? Maybe sales is not as bad as I thought. Maybe it is actually a noble trait and a noble skill. So I don't think we can do it globally. I think we can try to reach as many people as possible, and hopefully they will just convey that message onto their immediate circle. We build partnerships and we have ambassadors, if you will, or evangelists that can also sing the praises of sales. And I think we've created that in the movement that we've got. There are some great coaches around the world that are also championing the same message, but whether we can do it to every single person on the planet, probably not. Is the reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
I don't remember what the question was. So. What do you recognize either with you or with your clients, with them going beyond the paradigm of like what's next and going straight on to the next thing? Like if you have like 1,000-person, what was the name of the thing? The sales con?
SwishCon.
1,000 people to 3,000 people. How do you go beyond that paradigm of just jumping straight on to the next thing?
I'll tell you a quick story first. So we just finished our health and wellness retreat that we did. We did a house in Helensvale. And we were still at the house, and I was looking to book the event for next year. And one of my team was like, are you already like past this? I was like, I was actually past it ages ago, but now I've experienced the house. I love it. I want to book it in again.
Yeah.
So I'm in the next moment whilst I'm in the moment. And I always remember Glenn Richards, another one of our investors. He's the founder of Green Cross Vets, Pet Barn. He said, our job as the business owner is to be 3 years ahead, but to be present right now, which is just weird at the same time. So I think I plan times to dream, a lot of creative time, but I also plan times to reflect. So I believe in being ambitiously grateful. Like, I'm so grateful for what I've got, the life that I've created, and the day-to-day living that we have here on the Gold Coast. But that doesn't stop me being ambitious. And if I can't think of what I'm doing right now, so say I'm at that 1,000-person event. I remember very clearly, we did I don't know if did you come to the event? We did like this opening scene. For a long time, our whole theme at Swish has been the greatest show, as in the movie. And the opening scene was the greatest salesman. And we had these big performers and fire twizzlers and all this going on. And I purposely went and stood at the back of the room on a chair just so I could take it all in, because normally you're backstage and you don't get to enjoy it. And I remember standing there watching it, and I was enjoying it for about 30 seconds, which is a long time. And then I looked around. We were in the Gold Coast Convention Center in the stadium, and we just had the flat floor. And I remember looking around, knowing that there was all seats all behind the curtains. And I just looked around and gone, how amazing if Hugh Jackman was to walk out on an elephant right now, like he does in the movie. And that's where my head went. So I'm in the moment, but I'm using that as a catalyst to think bigger for 3 years. And there's plans in place for those types of things to happen as well. So I think you have to use that moment to dream bigger when you're in it. Otherwise, you will lose the emphasis, and you lose that, I wouldn't say dreamability. Is that even a word? That's a good word.
It is now.
You can use that one. So I dream when I'm in it, but I feel like I've got a bit of ADHD or something going on, because I can be really present at the same time as going, oh, Hugh Jackman's over there.
Yeah.
So I think you have to plan for it. And then you use it as momentum when you're in something you enjoy. You ride that, but consciously ride it. So I go, I know I'm going to be feeling good right now. Like, how can I go away and write something down really quickly whilst I'm in the moment? That's my plan. My ex-girlfriend in the UK, she was a singer-songwriter. She used to sleep with a guitar and notepad next to the bed, and she'd wake up in the middle of the night and just play a tune, or just come to her straight away. She was riding it whilst it was fresh, and I think we have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like that paradox of being present in the future that, so many people get stuck in, because they don't have the gratitude of the present while they're in that as well, because it's just like, it is literally the next thing. They're only looking outside rather than actually coming back to that place of presence.
Yeah.
What has been your primary shift to be able to create more of that?
The Gap in the Game was a good book to read if you've read that book.
Such a great book.
Yeah, just again, recognizing there's always going to be a gap, like always.
Yeah.
I actually sent my team a video this week of, what's his name? Eric Worre? Is it Eric? Do you know him? The multi-level marketing guy. He did an event with 40,000 people on Zoom, and he did a backstage video of all of the AV setup.
Yeah.
And I think we have quite a comprehensive AV setup at the convention center. And I said to my team, I said, there's always another level.
Yeah.
It was hectic.
Yeah.
So I think recognizing that, firstly, that I'm never going to be finished. There is no 3,000 people and we're done. There is no $100 million business and we're done. I think once you recognize that, you just realize this is just the game now. I'm just somebody that's going to continue to strive for more whilst enjoying today. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're around the right people, that won't even unconsciously question it, when people start to say little things like, you're not tired. Like that's just it just plants a seed, doesn't it? Like, when's enough? Like, is it just about the money? Like, it just plants a little seed of doubt for you. I had a family member years ago come to my house, and she said, it's a bit big. First words, like, it's a bit big. And then after a few weeks, they left, and I said to my ex-wife, I said, do you think it is too big? Like 3 weeks, it just started to go in. Do you know what I mean? So I think surrounding yourself with the right people that will allow you to or almost give you permission to go, it's okay to think bigger. It's okay. Don't forget where you've come from, and don't forget what you've got, but it's okay to go a little bit bigger.
How do you cultivate that then? You know, because there's always going to be people, whether they're conscious of it or not, that become that negative gravitational pull in your life. You know, it often starts with, you know, your family. You have to break free of your family first, and you've got to break free of, you know, your friends as well. You change friend circles, and then often you have to break free of your peers. You know, to stand out in any industry, you can't be the same as the industry. So it's this breaking free from that. How do we continue in that journey over time?
I don't think most people are aware of those negative people in their life initially. We do an exercise again on the bootcamp where we talk about creating your circle of inspiration, and that we literally have a list of. It's quite a confronting exercise actually. There's a lot of tears, which people don't expect on a sales training program. So we go, right, who do you need to intentionally reduce your exposure to? So I used to say eliminate from your life, and I've softened it slightly because often they're family members. And so like I've got a family member that will always question how hard I'm working and why I'm doing it. And I realized the trigger was that she would say to me, how's work? And I'll go, it's great. I'm going off to do a podcast this afternoon. We're going out on next Wednesday. I'm going down to Sydney the week after. Oh, Ryan, you're going to kill yourself. Right. And it would always follow the same vein. So now when they go, how's work? I go, yeah, it's good. How are you? I just reduce my exposure to that part of the conversation. So we make a really clear list of who in your life is giving you a trigger of potential negativity. And it might be a staff member. It might be that we need to let somebody go because they are the negative Nancy in the office that will constantly keep bringing everybody else down. And then the counter to that is, who do I need to increase my exposure to? So like for me, it was, I'm not doing $100 million a year. So I'm going to increase my exposure to $100 million a year CEOs, right? So then I create a list of who might they be, and then I intentionally start to reach out and build those relationships. One thing that I wasn't very good at previously, I'm still not great at, was financial literacy. Right? I didn't know how to read a P&L. I'm like, okay, so I need to increase my exposure to people that understand that. Who's my list? So I gradually start to reduce my exposure to the negative Nancys and intentionally build my exposure to the people that are actually going to serve me. And then it becomes a rhythm. Like in our business, we call it the company heartbeat. Like Monday mornings is a half an hour morning huddle where we do weekend whip. We have 90 seconds each to talk about our weekend and what we got up to. Then we go into our wins from last week, focus for the week ahead, metric for success and challenges. And we do that every single morning then for 12 minutes each morning after. And if somebody's negative, if you've disproportionately got the right people in the room, they'll shut them down quick enough. And you either get brainwashed to drink the right Kool-Aid, or you continue to drink the Kool-Aid you want. You're drinking Kool-Aid anyway. Like, you might as well choose the positive one. And they just don't last in our environment, unfortunately.
How important is it to be able to create ongoing feedback loops like that then, of, you know, having that 12 minutes?
It's so important. The platforms for voice, as we like to call them, are really important. So I got introduced a few years ago through Dr. Glenn Richards to a lady called Anna Samios, who's based down in Sydney. She's a scaling up coach. Have you read Scaling Up by Vern Honish? So she was the first female certified scaling up coach in Australasia. She's become like my Greek auntie that I didn't know I needed. I actually emceed her book launch a couple of weeks ago. She's phenomenal, and she installed all the Rockefeller habits into our business and that heartbeat. And as we now evolve, as I mentioned earlier on, we're going remote for the first time in 11 years. If we didn't have all of these company heartbeats and rhythms and huddles in place right now, then the distance between conversations would become too much. And it only takes a few hours of not speaking to somebody, and they can come up with this whole spiraling story around a disconnect with you as the business owner or each other. So I think all of those communication channels are important, whether it be on a Slack. We do we've done this for years, a daily feedback email that every single like my C-suite will send me a daily feedback email. People beneath them or aside them will then send them their daily feedback email. And it's as simple as productivity and positives, questions and concerns, academy use. So they have to tell us what training they did today in our own sales academy. And then wow, how did they wow somebody today? And they might not have wowed somebody that day, but it's just a reminder that our job is to wow. And that daily feedback email it's almost like caching your computer at the end of the day and just getting everything out of your head so that they can then just relax and go, I did my job today. All of those things, personal development reviews, We do TCMs, which are training, coaching, or mentoring one-on-ones for team members as well. I think they're essential in a business.
What about in terms of, I know you guys do, I think it's objection handling, like most days.
Oh, the role play,
Yeah.
role play in general. Yeah.
Yeah. How important is that to be able to get better at sales?
How important is it to practice anything if you want to get better at it? It's the reality. We're not born with linguistic skills. We learn to talk to each other, and often we've not been trained to do that in an effective and efficient manner. So when's the worst time to learn how to swim? When you're drowning. When's the worst time to think about what you're going to say? When you're saying it, or worse, after you've said it. We've all had an argument with a partner and then walked away and gone, nah, I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said this. So 2 minutes, we do it 4 times a day. Obviously we're overkill because we get tested by the market. So this is our daily rhythm. We do a morning huddle for 12 minutes. We do a 10-minute sales surgery, which is like a pipeline audit with clear strategy. And then we do a 2-minute role play. And the role play is based on the objections that we feel or challenges we feel we're going to get that day with the particular calls that are coming up. So it's huddle, sales surgery, role play, 2 minutes. And then we do role play for 2 minutes after the morning break, after lunch, and after an afternoon break. So 4 times a day. It's 8 minutes. It's 8 minutes of me going, Cody, Ryan, Swiss Sales Coaching, how you been? I've been well, thanks, mate. Yourself? Yeah, great. Actually, thanks so much for asking. Now, if you recall, I did send that email over to you a couple of days ago. Now, I don't think for a second you've had a chance to have a look at it, but nonetheless, there was one thing I didn't get to say to you. Grab a pen for me. I'll let you know what it is. That, swap over, next person goes. All right. What that does is stop you going, I haven't looked at the email just yet. Can you call me back tomorrow? So I don't create a list of call me back tomorrows. But if you're not sharp, you're blunt. And you don't want to be blunt on a sales call. You've got to be sharp, especially as a sales training organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect thing to wrap up on. What's the best way for people to find you?
Pretty active on socials these days, not like 2017. I'm all over everything. LinkedIn professionally, it seems to be the go, but I'm all over Insta, Facebook, just Ryan Tuckwood official.
Epic. This has been fun. Thanks.
Right, thanks so much. Appreciate it.